Hi everybody, and welcome to the very first episode of Paiagroject, a fan-made podcast about the board game Gaia Project. I am Matteo,
and this is Simone. Hello.
And this is Simone. Hello. We're both fans, of course, of the board game Gaia Project, and we decided to create this podcast to talk about the various aspects of the game throughout the years as we have known it. During the podcast, you will hear us often talk about an online gaming platform named Board Gamers Space. You can find it online at the URL boardgamers.space, yes. And it's Board Gamer Space is not is not endorsing our podcast, and we're not endorsing them directly, but we're very grateful to them because it has quickly become our favorite gaming platform online, right?
Well, at least as far as Gaia Project is concerned, and I'd say it's been particularly useful to us and particularly precious during the last year, during the pandemic outbreak. And it made possible for us to continue to play one of our favorite tabletop games, even though we were not physically able to meet and play.
Most importantly, you can find us, and if you want, of course, play with us on it. You can look for us. I am El Temblo.
And I am Molfo. By the way, we forgot to mention we're both Italians, but I think by now our listeners have understood that because of our terrible accents.
Yes, I'm afraid so. So please forgive us, and we hope that will be understandable nonetheless. For today's first episode of our podcast, we decided to start with a topic which we are sure will bring us a lot of hatred from everyone. So we're basically trolling everybody right at the beginning. And today we will talk about, say it.
I just want to point out that when Matteo asked me what should be the topic of the first episode of the show, and I thought, I don't know, because we really had we didn't know what was the better topic to start with, and I said, okay, we could just do rankings of the factions, and Matteo told me that's like the worst possible topic ever. Everybody's gonna hate us for that. Let's do it. And so here we are.
And so here we are, episode 1, faction rankings. Okay, as a general caveat, I'd love to say a couple of things. First one being, of course, as everything we will say here, all our opinions are just that, opinions which come out of our experience. So yours may be different. You can have, and we hope you have, very different ideas on a lot of topics, and that's perfectly fine, of course. We know that we will say something which is not in line with a lot of what is currently saying in the community, but we'll try to argue that
Ambas just suck. Ambas are the worst faction in the game, period.
Whoa, he's hot. He's on fire. We will try to argument at best why we do not agree with what we could describe as the mainstream opinions. As a second caveat, in general, I think that factions are a bit overrated. We're thinking about strategy in Gaia Project because the game itself tends to imbalance in a very good way, meaning that due to the huge setup variability, which sets it apart a bit from Terra Mystica, every single game in Gaia Project ends up being imbalanced somehow. So picking the faction is a crucial point of the game. The game starts before you start taking actions, as I think you all know. So the trick is not to get the most powerful faction or the strongest one, but the faction which has the potential to be the strongest in that very game. And this is very important because we will use words, I think, such as strong or weak, but they all have to be taken into context. A single game can see a faction which we will deem very important element to be kept when talking about strategy, I think, and factions in particular.
Of course. So if you really want to, that's the point. That's the whole point of the episode. Like doing a ranking of the faction of Gaia Project is something of a joke, because we started this episode saying that we're just trolling everyone, because you cannot really rank factions in Gaia Project. I mean, you can to an extent, but all the judgment values, they're highly contextual in this case when it comes to Gaia Project.
Maybe you should not talk about strong or weak factions, but more or less versatile factions, but versatile in a good, with a good meaning, not as the Warhammer Space Marine versatility of the old days. I mean, which weren't good at anything, but meaning that faction can perform well in a range of different contexts, of different main scorings, of different tech tiles placements and map setups and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so
exactly.
Where should we started by dividing the faction into 5 tiers, correct?
Correct. We have tiers. We have tiers. 5 tiers.
Of course we do. Into 5 tiers.
And we start with tier 5, like the bottom, the worst of the worst.
Okay, right? Right. Indeed. Okay. So have your pick. You can you can decide to immediately go against everyone, or more or less, or be more open towards our community. What do you choose?
Right. All right. I will take a soft approach here.
Oh, great.
And I will say that if I had to pick the worst possible faction in Gaia Project,
which I have to,
but if I had, suppose that I don't have to, but suppose that I had to, and my instinct would be to say Lantids. Lantids are, I know. I think Lantids are a very bad faction. I mean, they have arguably one of the most interesting abilities in the game, right? But what I think happened with Lantids is that during game design, the testers realized
during play testing, yes.
Okay, right. During play test, people realized they were too strong, and they got so they got nerfed, but excessively so. I would say
the nerf bet hit Lantids so bad.
Exactly. So I don't think it's a surprise. It would be surprising, for anyone to hear me say that the Lantids are by far the worst faction in the game because of their, the huge problems they start with, that they have to deal with throughout the game, and that they have to try to solve problems that other factions do not even have.
Just on top, exactly. Let's spend a couple more words about Lantids, because this is physically painful for me. Lantids are by far my favorite faction in the game. So how can maybe the worst one be my favorite faction? That's because their native ability is so cool. They're wow. In a game where competition for planets is vital, Lantids just somehow ignore that rule, or maybe overrun it in some way. Mobility is not a problem for that. They shine at some mains. We will discuss it maybe in an episode about Lantids. But problem is that yes, the nerfs they were hit with to balance this incredible ability, coupled with the 2 extra knowledge you get from your parasite mines, just made the Dolphins up a faction which is not bad on its own, as I said at the beginning, but is good in so few occasions. It's too much. The nerf in starting power, the nerf in not having extra power ever from their Planetary Institute, the 2 less coins, the 13 starting coins. I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
So
Actually, it's not much about the two missing coins, the two missing credits, as it is about
but it piles up. It piles up.
It piles up. But,
I mean,
the real problem is the terrible power cycle and power situation.
Man, we start with 4 in Bal 1. Isn't that enough?
yeah, that's indecent. But
now the bomb.
Fair point. At least the Lantids, they're good at their job. I mean, if main objectives are sectors, structures in Federation, they really excel at that. They can easily score 36 points on the main objectives.
They are literally invincible at sectors, at least.
If they want to, yes. So in the right setup, at least the Lantids have some promises for you, right? There are some things with the Lantids that you can take for granted. But there is another faction that does not
oh man
provide you with this
but it's insurance.
No promises. Yeah, you have no insurance, you have no promise. And this faction, which is my personal worst,
drum roll,
number 14. So Lantids number 13, but honestly, my personal worst number 14 are the
drum roll.
Yeah,
Bal T'aks.
Yes, I've said it. The Bal T'aks are absolutely by far the worst faction in Gaia Project. And I would go as far as to say that is not contextual. The Bal T'aks are just bad, and they're bad at everything they do. If you really think about it.
Oh, people will hate us so much for that. But guys,
I don't care.
But guys, that's it. Bal T'aks are the worst. I wholeheartedly agree.
More than people hate us.
I wholeheartedly agree with Simon here. Go on, because I know that you will roast them so bad, and I can't wait to hear it. Go, please.
The Bal T'aks are somehow in the same situation, in the same starting situation as the Lantids are. They received some major nerf because of their actually relatively good ability, right? I mean, Bal T'aks can produce plenty of QACs each turn, right? More or less for free. And press on the more or less, right?
Wait.
Wait. Exactly. The point is that those QACs are not for free.
But wait, these CIQs will top on the starting one, right?
Nope. Because
why?
The Bal T'aks, one of the initial nerves of the Bal T'aks is that they do not have an initial CIQ. They don't have one, and don't make the mistake of thinking that their starting Gaia Former counts as their starting CIQ. No.
It's a tech step. It's fine.
Exactly. That's your faction ability. That's your faction ability, which means that until you have taken at least another 2 steps on the Gaia forming track, or comes around 2, you do not have a faction ability. You only have your initial CIQ, your starting QAC, which you should have and you don't.
No, well, actually, to be fair, you have 1 per round. So
you have 1 per round, right? But I'm saying that in round one, you don't have a faction ability unless you go up 2 steps on Gaia forming track, and you start with a terrible situation in your power cycle, obviously, because it's a bit better than Lantids.
No, it's better. It's much better.
It's much better, but it's still the fact that you only have 4 power does not really help you in getting to 4 points power action before other people do, because it takes exactly the same amount of charging for a normal faction, which starts with 2-4 to get 4 and 3, or to you to get 4 and 3, right? It's actually the same amount of charging. So it's not that your power cycle is better because you're missing 2 of the power tokens. You're just missing 2 of the power tokens.
You can't. I mean, you can't even Gaia form in turn 1 unless you go up Gaia track. It's incredible. That's incredible. You have a Gaia former that you cannot use unless you start climbing up Gaia forming.
So basically, Bal T'aks are designed to force you to to climb the Gaia forming track, right? There is no other option basically for you.
You have an extra QIC per round, so you can top that, because I mean you will reach other planets by going up the navigation track, right?
Yes. and that's the worst part, right? Matteo is trying to provoke me, of course.
No,
of course,
won't.
as everybody knows, the Bal T'aks cannot. So your only one starting ability is a huge nerf. Like there is not even the Gleens have been treated so badly in this game.
Why?
There is no other faction that gets a nerf as big as the Bal T'aks did, because they cannot climb the navigation track. So they have to use, unless they build their vastly useless planetary institute, right?
Well, at least once you open your PI, you will get a cool ability, right?
Yes, you get the cool ability of being a normal faction and be able to climb up Gaia forming. Navigation.
You won't get anything. That's unbelievable. Even less than a vanilla planetary institute. It's less. Like, it gives you nothing. It just fixes a nerf you have.
Actually it doesn't, because you have to pay dearly for that planetary institute, and the Bal T'aks, of all things, are not a faction with abundant resources. Normally Bal T'ak games tend to be, unless, well, it depends, of course, this varies from gate to gate, but they tend to have a not so strong economy, let's say. They tend to be incredibly poor. So the point is that it's such a disadvantage to build the planetary institute.
Yes.
Basically you never do, right? And so what you do with Bal T'aks is normally you open academy and rush the Gaia forming tech track, or maybe you open just with a research lab and wait to get on the top of Gaia forming track the next round.
Anyway, you aim at reaching at the top of Gaia forming as soon as possible, of course.
That's basically, that's basically the only option that has been left to you. And at that point, you have 3 Gaia formers, which you cannot place anyway, because you only have 7 power at the point, right? So you can only place 2 of your Gaia formers per turn, unless you get 2 more powers from some other source.
On the power action or the booster, and at that point you have 1 power token circling in your balls. Great.
Exactly.
That's going to give you a lot of resources. Great.
Exactly. So you're not good at producing value out of your power cycle, because you probably, if you decide to go full Gaia forming with Bal T'aks, right? Then you use all of your power to build transit planets, and then you don't have that power in going around your power cycle and producing wealth, or you decide not to Gaia forming at all, which is an unusual choice for the Bal T'aks, but they can do that.
They can go up the terraforming track.
Yes,
for example. Yes, they can. They can.
And then, but here again we have another problem, because how fast will you how fast will you be able to climb a second tech track? Because that's the Bal T'aks trap. Because if you build the two Science Academy, then you will be extremely poor, especially credit-wise. If you build a credit academy, the 4 credit academy, then you will be extremely slow in going up other technology tracks.
Other tracks, yes. Well, anyway, people, I think we
made that point. The only thing I still want to say about the Bal T'aks is that it's true, you get all these like quote unquote free QACs per round, but then you cannot move, so you need to spend at least some of those QACs in order to move around and expand and build new structures.
Yeah.
So that's a fake advantage.
Indeed, people. I know that a lot of players hold Bal T'aks in the highest regard. I read on the forums that they are one of the strongest faction, but according to our experience, that's just not true.
Yes,
that's just not true.
And also always remember that QAC actions are incredibly easy to. I mean, other player can easily stop you from taking, QAC action, especially Risk Federation. I mean, it's enough for somebody else to be first player on round 5 and round 6. And even if you are able to amass huge amounts of QACs, maybe you won't be able to use them to score more points because somebody else will take the QAC action before you. There is no guarantee that the Bal T'aks will be the first to get the chance to rescore the Federation.
Rescore Federation is a classical opening move for late game.
Exactly.
It's so easy that someone else will steal it from. Okay, I think we convey the idea. They can. I personally, I have played good Bal T'aks. I have scored more than 200s with Bal T'aks once. It can happen. There are ways. There are situations, but everything has to be so aligned. Everything has to be so perfect. Nobody has to make that single wrong move, which will totally destroy your game.
Yes, of course.
In some way, because you don't have the resources. You can't recover from bad blows. But I agree. Change your mind. This is it. Bal T'aks, worst faction ever.
Change my mind. It will literally blow my mind if somebody came and show me and proves to me.
Prove us.
Exactly. Like change our minds, people.
So that was it for tier 5. We just grouped these two, which we think are by far the worst factions in the game. Even though I remind you that one of those is my favorite faction in the game. So this is to say how these tiers are.
They're not based on feelings and heart. They're based on science. Hard science, cold facts.
Yes, they're based on our experience. Now, for tier 4. Tier 4, I think that we could say that includes... last word about Bal T'aks. It is clear that Bal T'aks had another very strange ability, which can easily imbalance the game, which can easily allow them access to a ton of extra points, and were badly nerfed as well during playtest. I think that tier 4 includes the factions of the game, which we think are still interesting, are still fully playable. Not that Bal T'aks or Lantids are not playable, but can be played on a more regular basis, but still were nerfed a bit too much to be seen in more games. What do you want to start with?
I'm not even sure that this tier 4 we have tier 4 we have 4 factions. I don't think they were necessarily nerfed, these factions. Some of them are just the most vanilla faction in the game.
Yes,
right?
and maybe they needed a slight boost, something something extra. I don't know, to keep up with the strongest ones. I don't know.
All of them, I think, could benefit from some very, very minor boost. But I think our tier 4 is largely uncontroversial. I mean, I think that pretty much everyone here would agree with us that the 4 factions, it might be a matter of dispute the order which we want to play them, but I'd say that's very free, and that depends on the players and their experience with these factions.
I think that 2 of them actually will be placed by most players on a higher tier, but I will say later which of this one. Okay, so we said the Bal T'aks we think are the worst. Then come Lantids, and on position.
Yeah, my pick for 12? Number 12 are the Xenos.
I disagree.
Yeah, I know you do. We talk about this before, and I also know that your person number 12 will probably be the Geodens. But the thing is, all right, let me just make a quick point about the Geodens before we go back to the Xenos. So it is obvious that the Geodens are not one of the stronger faction in Gaia Project. And it's also true, as we say, that positions in this tier are largely variables. So tier 4 is the tier that has the most internal variability in terms of rankings. But I would still say that the Geodens are one of the top faction in this tier, perhaps number 10 or even 9. So first or second in the tier. Why? All right, admittedly, playing the Geodens feels like you have a third main mission. So in addition to the main objectives of the game, they have to hunt for those different planet types. And this obviously makes their game more complicated because that is yet another thing you have to look out for. Of course, these considerations are valid if planet types is not already a main mission. In that case, this is not true. But in that case, the Geodens end up suffering or may end up suffering greatly from the competition for planets. But anyways, so this is basically the Geodens' main disadvantage, right? Coupled with the fact that they also have to open their PI in order to reap the benefits of colonizing new planets. So this is very expensive and difficult to exploit ability. And in the end, this is why they fall, in my opinion, our opinion, in tier 4. There's no doubt that they fall in tier 4. But in my experience, I have on average scored higher with Geodens than with Xenos. And why is that? Because sometimes Geodens get lucky and find a setup where they can really shine. It is uncommon, sure, admittedly, but it happens. While I would say that it is more difficult in the case of the Xenos.
To fully evaluate the faction in this game, I think one of the things you have to keep in mind is versatility, as you said, right? Like, is this faction versatile? Can I pick them in a huge number of contexts, just a very few contexts,
and a variety of situations?
Yes, and that's a thing for sure. But another thing that you have to want to keep in mind is, given the right circumstances, how good is this faction going to perform, right? Because there are factions that in the right context, they can score very high ending scores, while there are other factions that are maybe good in a variety of contexts, but they tend to on average to score lower scores. And I think Xenos are a perfect example of that. Xenos can do well in a huge variety of contexts. They have their extra start in mind, which is really good, and they have their PI ability, which is really good, and they get accuracy from their PI, which I guess is good as well. But apart from the fact that here comes the real problem with Xenos, that they constantly lacking powers to form all these federations that you have to
form in order to exploit their ability. I mean,
exactly,
their PI ability.
So, and okay. The problem that I have with Xenos is that they are desperately dependent on the basic tech that makes your academies and planetary institute worth for purpose of federation forming.
Well, it's not necessarily strictly necessary, but for sure that helps a lot.
Yeah, a lot. I mean, but anyways, so let's say the other two factions that I would put in tier 4 are the Hadsch Hallas and the Bescods.
And I agree on that.
And okay, right. So, I mean, you can personally, my ranking of these 4 factions from best to worst would be Geodens, then Bescods, then Hadsch Hallas, then Xenos, and we obviously do not agree on these positionings, not all of them, anyways. But I'll say these.
But I see your point with Xenos. They tend to perform good. But that's just not enough.
You need to start thinking that you need at least
yes.
in a competitive context, you need more than 117 points.
It is.
Sometimes you can win games with 160 or something like that. But that's not.
Of course.
Yes, that depends on the advanced tactiles and a lot of factors. But that's not normally what happens. Normally you start winning 4-player games at 170 or above that. Even better, 180 you can right, you can start being rightly confident that you will be able to pull off the game to get victory, right? So Xenos, I rarely see them get into this kind of results, and the same is true about Hadsch Hallas. Hadsch Hallas has this very interesting ability. I mean, they're a very good vanilla factions. They start with a little boost. They have plenty of credits always, because they start economy step 1. Nice faction, good faction. You will basically never have a problem with credits in
Good
your
guys.
game, you good guys. You
Nice
have
guys.
your extra 3 credits per round. Plus, you start at economy level 1, and in the from mid-late game you start using this very interesting ability that is converting credits in whatever you feel like. Whatever you want.
Very useful. They are the Swiss tool faction.
Exactly.
Swiss Samurai faction.
Exactly, and of course, it's very easy for them to rescore. I mean, if the first federation that around round 3, what Hadsch Hallas tend to do is around round 3 you form a federation. It's a 6 credit federation, and then you keep on rescoring that again and again because it only costs you 6 credits. So every turn, basically, if somebody else don't take the rescore federation action from you, you can rescore your federation for just 6 credits. That's basically
round 5. First player, rescore federation in your face, Bal T'aks. That's
exactly. Exactly. So yeah, they are good competitors for Bal T'aks on the rescore federation action. And but more or less that's it, right?
Right.
So that's a very good ability. I mean, it's obviously better to have that than not having it. But again, the ability to rescore federation, to produce a lot of CIQs, of QACs alone, this ability alone does not grant you victory, as in the case of Bal T'aks. Hadsch Hallas have the another advantage that they can rush
economy track, which is a huge track to rush early on.
Huge track. Exactly. They can do this rush with their academy. Round 1, they're on top not on top, they're on level 4 of the economy track. And if there is a good a good advanced tactile there, you can take that. The problem with that, though, is there are a number of problems here. The first one is that if something really good is sitting on top on the economy track, you tend to have competition on that. And we all know that there are factions in this game that are much better than you, Hadsch Hallas, to do whatever, to pull off whatever trick they want to, and to steal that advanced tech track from you. So you have to be careful.
And we will talk about those later when we reach
the
top
and we will talk about this later. Exactly. So yes, you can rush economy. I mean, it's a good opening, I think, for them. Instead of opening PI round 1, which I think is pointless, but
because you basically don't have the coins to convert.
Exactly. You consolidate your economy, and then later on you open your PI, and you try taking whatever sits on top of economy and hoping it's a good tactile.
Without rusting your economy in the
without
process.
rusting your economy, which sometimes can happen. That's another problem, right? That you can put too much effort in that initial rush towards the advanced tactile, and then you get burned from that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and in general, Hadsch Hallas, I think that can be summed up as maybe a bit of an excessively vanilla faction. I like Hadsch Hallas. Recently, I've played a game with them which I won at 207. So you can score well with them. Again, we'll talk about Hadsch Hallas in detail in next episodes, for future episodes. But they can be summed as maybe a bit excessively vanilla faction. To really shine.
Perhaps that is true. Yeah.
In context, yes. Okay, so tier 1, your next pick is
tier 4. We still have a faction. We still have a faction in tier 4.
Which are Bescods. You said that before, yes.
Exactly, which are the Bescods.
Mad androids.
Which I think I can speak for the both of us if I say that we love the Bescods, right? They're a faction that we really enjoy playing. I really enjoy playing Bescods. How do you feel about playing Bescods?
I think that we enjoyed both the sides of the gray board. They're both funny factions.
Yes.
Fun and funny.
Fun and funny. I have a strong, emotional attachment to the gray board. That's for sure. And so the Bescods are one of my favorite factions in the game because of their unique game style and the crazy trick that they're able to pull off. The Bescods are also another faction that received very heavy nerfs for apparently no reason.
Again, that happened again.
That happened again. Yes, the Bescods have too many nerfs to really shine. I mean, there are situations, there are games in which they can shine, but they cannot compete for the crown in.
Yes.
In Gaia Project.
What happens with Bescods to me is that I mean, I feel that they're very map dependent. I feel that I can pull out. I often feel that I could pull out a huge game with them, but at the same time, I feel that there are too many competitors. There are too many other factions which, if picked, if they have not been picked already, of course, but will totally destroy my game. I'm looking at you, Brown Board. I'm looking at you both, guys, because and on the other side, they can be sandwiched between the brown and the white board.
Yes.
Those two. I mean, we haven't talked about
two extremely aggressive boards.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Even Nevlas, which do not tend to expand too much compared to the other ones. I mean, no, that's not given. Even Nevlas, which tend to build up first. They can badly hard to.
They can totally ruin your game. Agreed.
Because you need those gray planets, and even one, but the wrong one will bring you pain.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, the problem with Bescods is that they are rarely, if ever, stress on ever, a good first pick. Like the Bescods are a really good third or even better fourth pick, right? That's what I tend to pick Bescods at least, because if the Ambas are in the game, then you're in big trouble. And so yeah, and they are extremely context dependent. They depend on the other factions that are in the game, and they are dependent on the map. They are one of the most map dependent factions in the game. The Bescods tend to be a late game powerhouse. It takes time, it takes fuel to get this huge Bescods engine to run. But when it's running, they can become really, really powerful. The problem with that is that, as I totally agree with you, the problem for Bescods is competition, because you can get on top of every track you want if you really set your mind to it. But the point is that somebody will have got there before you.
Yeah, you won't likely be the first. I mean, you can. You can. I have rushed tactiles with Bescods, but exclusively, if I remember correctly, when they were on top of navigation track. I have rushed those.
And even then, navigation is the one track where you have the most competitions, because you have the Ambas, you have the Gleens, and then everybody in general, everybody tend to most factions tend to go up navigation. So that's the Bescods problem. That
they're bullied.
Competition hurts them too much, and they are good, but they are good at pretty much everything, but they are slow at pretty much everything.
They also have a strange nerves. I mean, why one?
And they have
why one?
Yes.
Why not like two? Why one and that's it?
Actually, this now they have implemented the
these so-called balance factions.
Yes, the balance, the balance to the various factions.
Yeah,
and
to be fair, that applies also to other factions we have already talked about, like Xenos, which produce power, Lantids, which start with 15. I mean, but not Bal T'aks, because Bal T'aks are too strong.
Bal T'aks are so strong. They don't need any buff. But yeah, okay. So we're obviously here. We're just referring to the base game version of the factions.
Of course.
But there is one more thing with Bescods, that there is a terrible problem that they have, and nobody even ever talks about that. Nobody ever most people don't even realize that's a huge problem. The problem with Bescods is that you only get 6 tactiles, while all other factions in the game, they take 7. They can take up to 7 tech tiles,
Right.
And maybe you won't get all of them in a single game. But my point is that when you build an academy and you spent you invested a lot of resources to build that academy, then you get one research lab back with which you can then take another tactile. And Bescods do not get that, because Bescods, when they build academies out of trading stations.
Trade stations, yes.
Exactly. And I cannot count the Bescods games in which that has been a problem for me.
Yes, I agree. Also, their academy, they seem to be prone to an academy opening at first, because I mean it costs way less. It's an auto build. But no, but we will talk about this when talking about Bescods, but people don't.
No, it's a terrible idea to open academy with Bescods. I agree. I rarely done that, and most times I regret doing that.
Don't. You reach round 3 when you say, "Boy, I should have opened that research lab. I should have gotten those coins, and now I need the Planetary Institute, and I have 0 ideas on how to open it." Don't do it.
Right.
Well, I think that
that's tier 4, people.
That's it for tier 4. Okay, we are reaching tier 3, which means factions which are not, in our opinion, the best, considering all that we said at the beginning. But now things start to become interesting. I ask you to start with the next one, because here I already know that we strongly disagree on this one. Strongly disagree.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure we strongly disagree. I'm sure that people who's listening to us, and if there's still somebody listening to us, they might have noticed that there's something missing.
Something's missing among the worst factions.
Among the worst faction, we cover 6 factions up until this moment, and no one has ever said the word. Up until now, nobody has ever said the word Gleens. But there's a reason for that.
You said it when talking about the navigation track, actually. But
I did.
Yes,
sure.
Gleens in tier 3. You're a criminal. You're an outlaw. You have police code.
Yeah, this was my doing. I admit it. But I think Gleens, they deserve more credit than they do not usually get. Gleens are one of those factions that are extremely context dependent. When I say that Bescods are one of the most map dependent factions in the game, I didn't say they are the one most map dependent faction in the game, because Gleens are
because that's the title for Gleens. Yes.
That's the title for Gleens. I mean, Gleens need to have a very specific map configuration, or they cannot play at all.
Tons of yellow and Gaia planets within the reach of tons of them.
They need to have their path already, stretched out in front of them across the stars. There is
and also round scoring to be credible, at least.
And they are incredibly dependent on round scoring bonuses. Exactly. But provided that these 2 conditions obtain, then the Gleens can be extremely powerful. So here again, we are back at the old conundrum, right? I mean, should we evaluate faction on the basis of their versatility, or should we evaluate factions on the basis of how well they can perform given the right setup conditions, right? So I think Gleens fall obviously they fall in the second category, right?
Well, this is for sure. Nobody will ever doubt it.
Nobody will ever question that. Agree.
But by the way, Gleens are also another nerf factions. I mean, inexplicably nerfed factions, because they don't get the initial CIQ as well as Bal T'aks. Why?
Well, yeah, that's true.
They should have at least one extra ore, right?
Yes,
but
they should have. Yes, they don't. They have this initial nerf, that is true, and of course their biggest nerf, which is the inability to produce and use QACs, and to use them in order to move. That's very important in the early game, and then in the late game, the ability to use QACs it becomes
yeah, using them with moving becomes less important as the game progresses. In fact, the proposed fix for Gleens, which is currently being tested on Board Game Space, is to give them an initial quantum intelligence cube, which can be used for movement, but then once you use that, you're done. That's because their worst enemy are Ambas, of course.
Yes.
But
everybody worst enemy are Ambas, basically.
Yes, more or less, but not exactly. Anyway, Ambas are one of their worst enemies because they can. This is something which almost everybody can do actually with Gaia planets, but they can so easily take you one of those very, very vital planets which form your chain of colonization.
Yeah, they form the Bal T'aks path, the path of the Gleens. Sorry.
Exactly. With that extra starting QIC, you can somehow overcome this because you can take that jump, which allows you to go to the next planet and so keep you going. But I strangely you are almost convincing me. I think they are tier 4 actually.
Yeah, one thing I will say in favor of Gleens is that yes, their worst enemy are definitely the Ambas, but they do not suffer from the presence of the Ambas as the Bescods does, in my opinion, because the Gleens they can climb up navigation very, very rapidly, which is something the Bescods cannot do. So depending on turn order on round 1, the Gleen can actually beat Ambas to certain vital, central Gaia planets. The Bescods can never do that, unless, of course, you get the right booster, the right turn booster. Well, that's an entirely different story.
On the other hand, if you're playing Gleens, you start, very relaxed, saying that, okay, guys, I'm not going to win this game, so do whatever you want. Oh, Ambas, you've taken one of my yellow planets. Oh, well, that's another day at Gleens. I mean, with Bescods, you live in this constant anxiety that anybody can pick one of your fantastic native planets, gray planets,
titanium gray planets. Yeah, true. But the Gleens at least have this to say that they can compete. They can have a fair competition even with Ambas when it comes to Gaia planets, and well, all right, well, more fairer than the Bescods at least, and they can, if they decide to, they can climb up navigation very rapidly and get whatever is on top on that tech track. And if you really need a Federation token, you can get it out of your planetary institute.
That is true.
Not the best of plans, but still a plan. Oh, sorry.
Okay, you've almost convinced me. Gleens are even somehow versatile when it comes to climbing the tech tracks. Okay, navigation is absolutely necessary, but this goes without saying. That said, I think we got the best results maybe with climbing terraforming next. You can also follow the Gaia forming path, but I think that one of the worst pitfalls in which people fall when they play Gleens is to rush the 3 points per Gaia planet tile. This is something not to do. We will discuss that later. But
in a Gleen episode, it will be fantastic.
In a Gleen episode, a shiny Gleen episode. Yeah. But that tile can bring trouble. You already get 2 points per Gaia planet, which is not bad. That's almost as much as an advanced tactile. But
yeah, in general,
don't rush that.
Climbing up the Gaia forming track with Gleens can bring you trouble, unless you are the only player
who Gaia forms. Yes,
who Gaia forms in the game. In that case, Gleen will play a game extremely with a very difficult economic situation. Let's say, to put it lightly, you will be desperately poor. You will be craving for resources, but you will score huge amount of points. If the Gleens are left alone Gaia forming, there are good. At that point, I think they have good chances of winning the game, which is something Sorry, I have
Something.
to go back on this, which is something you cannot say about the Bal T'aks. I'm sorry, but here's the deal. Here's why the Gleens are tier
I can't.
three,
I
and Bal
can't
T'aks-
wait. I can't wait for the Bal T'aks episode at this point.
and Bal
I
T'aks
really can't.
are in tier 5, because even if they're left alone Gaia farming, Bal T'aks still get problems in getting all the points that they need to win the game.
All in all, I think that Gleens still should be tier 4 at best.
All right.
But because
we
they
agree to disagree.
They are very, very situation dependent.
Yes.
They need a good map. They need a good tactile on top of navigation, and they need next to perfect round scoring.
Yes,
But still,
it's true. I 100% agree on the fact that they are situational. What I'm saying is that when the stars align, the Glean will rise.
They can shine. That's correct. I think we both scored around 200 points with Glean.
I did that more than once, more than 200 points with Gleans with no Gaia forming. That can be done. And it's a very fun game to play also.
And it's also very satisfying. I remember that momentous game when I was at like 70 points at the end of round 2. Something that was ridiculous. Yeah. Exactly. Maybe it was round 3, but there are some Glean moments in this game. Yeah. Okay, so but you almost convinced me. Tier 3.
What's left in tier 3? Tell us.
I'd go on with Firaks.
All right.
Firaks, they are, wow, we love the octopuses. Yes. We love the octopuses. They can pull out so fun games. They're fantastic. You can even open with relative ease, very relative, but you can pull out their PI, the Planetary Institute plus Research Lab engine running in round 1. That's not their only opening. You can do something else, but if you do that, you are going to have tons of fun for sure. You will skyrocket on the tech tracks. And in general, the Firaks have a very unique play style. I think that the problem with Firaks, we place them in tier 3, and on this I wholeheartedly agree, because they had to balance this, they have several limitations. The first and most evident being not their starting ore, which is 3 and not 4. Which I mean that's a bit of a nerf in my opinion. But anyway.
They probably didn't deserve that, but they tweaked that in the balance faction version of the game.
But on the other hand, they also gain 2 knowledge each round, so that's fine. They can do well even with 3 starting ores. No, their main problem is that they will have to spend a ton of resources each round because they basically have to build 1 research lab per round. On top of other things they want to do. So Firaks will have great difficulties in expanding, in colonizing. They are terrible at structures. They are terrible at structures in Federation.
They are terrible at many things that are important in Gaia Project. That has to be said.
They're not good at they also are not good at sectors, which is a problem in itself, because a lot of tiles depend on scoring. It depends on sectors, even if you are not playing at sectors with sectors as one of the main scoring ones. So Firaks have limitations, but
their main objective is probably the most Firak friendly main objective is planet types.
Also satellites. They're quite
and satellites. Agreed.
And due to these difficulties in colonizing, they often struggle in forming the Third Federation, which is something that I experience exclusively with them, and of course with Bal T'aks, because Bal T'aks are terrible. So, but anyway, Firaks I think are a good fact. I like Firaks. And they also had the problem which Bescods have, which is their neighbors are brown and white, and this is a problem. But still,
they do not suffer from these as much as the Bescods do. No, but they do suffer from this.
They do. Anyway, the great faction. You can rush up the economy in like 2 rounds with no effort. Then you can skyrocket to the top of terraforming with contempt to seize. They're good. I like Firaks.
I mean, the point with again, they have their problems, but at least they guarantee you have some guarantees when you
Okay,
you know?
I think that the main problem with Firaks actually could be that there is no single final scoring condition which you can say, okay, I'm winning this. No, you can't. They're not good at anything.
Apart from science, you know, when you start.
No. I mean, sorry. I mean
the main objectives.
Yes, of course. The main two objectives. There is none of them. You can win none of them. I mean, automatically.
It's true. That's true. But as I was saying, at least they guarantee you 40 points on the science track.
Minimum.
For a minimum, as a minimum. Yeah. So so at least you have that. Firaks have that, and that's the reason they sit in tier 3, right? Because they can give you some assurances on the type of game.
They will give you, because you will get those 40. 36 if you really have huge problems, but in that case you will have expanded.
If you score 36 science point with Firaks, it means that something in your game went wrong, or you incredibly you had an extremely expansive games in which you focused all of your resources, your resources into the creation of a galactic empire. Yeah.
Exactly, which you can do, but I mean, where they shine is to climb tracks with the knees, which is incredible to behold. During round 4 to 6, you can just say, okay, I'm top in this track where I am at level 0, and you will do it, and you will just do it. Love it.
True.
Oh, next session is a tricky one.
So we're left with a single faction for tier 3. A tricky one, yeah. And I don't know, will people hate us for this? I don't know.
No, but, I don't think so.
I don't think so. I think they had a good run. I think they did very well, but their race ends here. So the Nevlas are
Nevlas are. I think we can agree that Nevlas are maybe the top of the faction of tier 3, don't we?
Yes. Yeah, I can. With the possible, I mean, I'm not sure. I still prefer playing Firaks to playing Nevlas, but again, that's personal, play style. In Nevlas are undoubtedly more versatile, and they can be more powerful in certain.
I like Nevlas. I like playing Nevlas a lot. I found out that I mean, the problem with Nevlas is very simple. With Nevlas, you will easily have a very powerful economy. You will easily produce a lot of knowledge points, both from power and your native. But the real problem with it will be often difficult to expand with Nevlas, actually, but it will do it because they can, because they have. At worst, you will just spend 2 of your power tokens, get a QQIC, sorry, get a QIC, and
can we just agree on the fact that they are called CAQs, and we were using the Italian acronyms, and everybody should they're just called CAQs. Stop nagging us.
Yes, sorry, English speakers do that, but I mean, I usually say CIQ, and so it comes to my mouth too quick for me to correct it. But anyway, you will spend two power tokens. You will get your cube and expand, and that's it. No, the real problem is that they, at least in my experience, they have difficulties in scoring. We have tons of resources, but with Nevlas, it is somehow hard to score. Anyway, but recently I found out a way in which they can score quite reliably, which of course I will reveal during the episode about Nevlas.
Very whitey Nevla episode. But the point is that you have this incredible, machine for producing resources that at a certain point in the game pops up, but normally that tends to happen very early. Then you need to find a way to convert all of those resources into points, right? And it is not always the case that the Nevlas are able to pull it out, because they need to to fuel that machine. It costs them plenty of points.
You also depend a lot on other players' actions. Because if other players decide to deny you of charging as much as they can, There's not much you can do. Okay, you have your initial round charge, but at the beginning of the game, you will have bad round 1 and 2, and that's a problem because of the very nature of the game, which tends to snowball a lot. So it can be a problem, especially at the beginning.
Yeah, and I mean, and also their ability is different from Tachlon's Brainstorm. Because I mean, it's obvious that I mean, it was obvious that we were ending up talking about Tachlons in comparison to Nevlas. But the point is that there are two fundamental differences. The first one is that Tachlons they need to charge just one, and they have moved 3 powers. They have moved 3 powers in the power circle. It's not the same for Nevlas, right?
Correct. Nevlas tend to spend a lot too much on charging, in my opinion. In my experience, at least, they spend. Yeah, you have to be very careful about that.
Yes, you have to be careful. It tends to get very expensive, but Tachlons can do this trick where once they have all their power in the third bowl, they simply stop using it, and they keep using their brainstorm over and over again with very cheap charging yes. That results in a lot of resources. The Nevlas cannot, because of the nature of their ability, Nevlas cannot pull exactly that.
Their power tokens are,
and there's a second.
The power tokens are each one of their power tokens is very good, but they still are 1 power token, so you have to try them. The second one you were saying it.
And the second thing is that the Tachlons get their ability for free. The Tachlons the Tachlons can open Academy if they want to, because they are not constrained, but they need to open their PI. The Nevlas are forced, and it depends. You want to do round 1, round 2, sometimes even round 3, maybe. Although I don't know. But you need at a certain point.
3 is okay. 3 is okay.
At a certain point, you need to open the Planetary Institute in order to get the wonderful power cycle going. The Tachlons get that from the first moment that the game starts. So that's why
their native is good. It has to be said that their native is good. They start on, I mean, the first step of the science track, and they have a very good native, which can help them in getting a lot of science. Tachlons have no ability of this own. They have no tech step. They just with many commas, they just have their incredibly powerful brainstorm, but that's it. Nevlas have a lot of advantages, but they're not easy to convert into scoring, actually.
Yeah, I actually have to say about Nevlas that if you have to face this huge decision to climb science, to climb economy. At a certain point in the game, you will have to face these decisions. Very hard to play Nevlas without
very early.
Yes, without climbing up one of these 2 tracks, and it's very hard to climb both of them, though you can. That's perfectly possible. But the point is that in games in which Nevlas do not go up the science track, I tend to see them score not so well on science. I mean, maybe they get around 30, but not even that. Maybe they get 28 or something like that. I've seen plenty of games with Nevlas ending up with 24, 28, 32 science points.
And you have to do that, but it's not easy. And also at the beginning of the game, you will say, "Man, I need that charge. I need those coins." Yeah. And so you will
and you do.
So you will be tempted and often fall to go up the economy track, which isn't bad on its own. You can also go up science after economy. But at that point, you will say, I need to expand. I'll just grab navigation. And so you postpone, and it's round 5. What are you going to do? Are you going to go up science now? No, you won't. And in the end, you will score bad.
Most probably not. Yeah. So yeah, the Nevlas, they have very good abilities. They help them to collect more and more science points, but sometimes that's not enough to score very, very good on the science tracks. I mean, for very, very good, I mean 40, right? 36, 40.
Correct. Just to clarify, we're not saying here that Nevlas are bad or anything. I have won several times with Nevlas. I have scored as high with Nevlas as with the most golden faction, so to say. They're good. They just are not. They just are not that good in that many situations as the best, with the commas, factions.
I mean, I would say about Nevlas, they're really good, but they have limitations.
And indeed, there are factions that can perform even better. However, we cannot talk about these now. We cannot reveal to you what they are. Maybe you already guessed which factions are we thinking about. Actually, what remains to be seen if they will fall in tier 2 or the very coveted tier 1. But this will have to be a topic for another episode because this one dragged too long. And so this is it for our first episode of paiagroject. Am I right,
guys,
Matteo?
yes, indeed. So guys, see you, or better, hear you next time. Hear you soon. And thanks for listening to us. Bye.